friends. Welcome to Dads and Daddies, a podcast about the lives and times of adult gay men in the here and now. I'm Brian Ruben Sowers, the dad.
And I am Judson Morrow, the daddy. Brian, I wish you could see this view. I can see your beautiful face and whatever body of water separates Fire Island from Long Island. What is that?
We are recording. We're doing our first remote recording, our first out-of-studio recording, I guess.
Yeah.
We are recording from the Belvedere Guest House, I think is the official name. I don't think they call it the Belvedere Hotel. The Belvedere Guest House in Cherry Grove on Fire Island.
Yeah, it's Gianni Versace's fever dream.
Or I have always called it Liberace's.
Yeah.
To me, this feels like Liberace designed this place. I love the Belvedere.
Oh, I'm a huge fan. I've never had the opportunity to stay here. I have hooked up here previously, and I have also MMX, Men's Massage Exchange, based out of New York City with a business in Fire Island and Fort Lauderdale, also hosts Saturday and Sunday morning yoga here. So I've done that too, but I'm going to sleep here tonight.
You are going to sleep here tonight. We're both staying here, just two rooms down from one another.
It's
right?
so cute.
Is there a room between us?
No.
Oh, we're right next door to each other?
Yeah, honey, we share a little balcony.
That's so fun. Yeah, we're here on Fire Island, which is one of my favorite places. It's a place that I was always apprehensive of before I met Toby. I thought it wasn't for me. I had in my head some idea of what it was. And then Toby, when we met, was somebody who always spent some time out here every summer and was excited to introduce me to it. And he used to stay not in the typical situation out here, not in a share where you are in a 4-bedroom house with 7 other people, but he would just rent like a 1-bedroom apartment essentially that was a pool house attached to one of these shares. So it was just the two of us and our dog Daisy back in May of 2012. And I just fell in love. I realized Fire Island is all what you make it. And I don't think I've missed a summer since. We were gonna miss this summer. We finally, after last summer, we went a little too intense our last trip here a year ago, last August, or maybe July, and we decided we might take this year off. But then you and I decided, no, we should take the opportunity and spend some time out here to let people know about this podcast. And so we booked 2 nights at the Belvedere.
Our husbands are here. Cute boys are here.
Yes.
I ran into some friends by the pool.
Sniffies is
poppin'.
Insane. You can't even see the map because for all the pictures, which is funny because just 1 year ago, people weren't using Sniffies out here. It was very much a Grindr and Scruff based app community. And now it seems like Sniffies has taken off even out here on Fire Island.
And Sniffies, to you, congratulations. You are having your moment. It's incredible. The way that Sniffies has proliferated almost everywhere I go, good for them, because I think the service is spectacular.
Yeah, well, I mean, they figured some things out. They're doing things differently than the others.
I mean, yeah, my criticism has always been of the other apps that are location-based. We are New Yorkers, and if you are on the tip of Manhattan and someone is 1,000 feet away, that is New Jersey. That is also Brooklyn. That is also somewhere else on the island of Manhattan. And with Sniffies, you can actually see
exactly where they are,
what 1,000 feet actually means.
Right. But also it's very, it's X photo first, forward.
Totally. It's dick first.
Yes.
Or butthole.
Or butthole. Yes. My main profile picture on Sniffies is my butt. So we're out here at the Belvedere. The last time I stayed at the Belvedere, I have stayed here once before. And actually I think I booked this exact same room. I'm in the oak room.
It's oaky in here.
It's very oaky. It's very dark.
This is a lot of wood paneling.
There's beer steins. Oh, we have a taxidermy deer head I didn't even notice until just this second. Yes, it feels like a little hunting lodge, a Bavarian hunting lodge suddenly in the middle of Fire Island, this very room. And you said your room, 2 doors or 1 door down, is entirely different.
Oh, yeah. I feel like my room is giving Bridgerton for sure.
Okay.
It's like pastel pinks and blues. Yeah. It's very different than this.
So I think we stayed in this exact room. And so our rooms are off of a hallway. And when we, I guess any room in a hotel would be off of a hallway, but the Belvedere is unlike most hotels, and it's kind of a maze, and you never know where you'll find your room. But right outside of, we're one of like 3 or to 5 rooms on this just one hallway. And when Toby and I booked this hotel just over 10 years ago, we've been married for 10 years, we did it as our last weekend before our wedding. This was going to be our little pre-marriage vacation together. And but I booked it so far in advance because, as you know, I'm a planner, sometimes to my detriment, because I plan I'll explain why. So we get here and they said, oh, so you booked this very early. And after that, a bear organization party took over the rest of the hotel. So we were the only room here that week that was not part of this bear gathering. And so it wasn't what we necessarily signed up for when we booked the room. But it was a lovely group of people. But the reason I remember this room in that hallway is because they set up a reception there at one point, like that, as our little like event room, and we had to like walk in and out of it to get into our room. And they were lovely, and they invited us to join. And so for those of you who don't know, the Belvedere also it's men only, and it is clothing optional. And so we booked it that weekend to kind of be cheeky the week before our wedding, and we thought we'd have some fun around here. But then everybody else kind of knew each other. They were part of this organization. They were all bears. But the best thing was that they invited us to this reception. And at this reception, they had ordered like one of those, like, I don't know, however many foot-long submarine sandwiches.
Oh, like a giant sub.
Like a giant, but yes, but they asked us if, we were totally welcome to their sub.
Submarine sandwich.
They meant submarine sandwich, yes.
I would be delighted if I showed up somewhere and they were like, oops, sorry, it's actually bear weekend.
Yeah,
I'd be thrilled.
I was a different person 10 years ago.
Understandable.
But so I'm excited to be here this weekend.
I do want to ask you a question, though, going back to your original intro, because I think this is important to explore for anyone of our listeners or their friends who are navigating maybe a new gay space for the first time. What caused you many, many moons ago hesitation about coming to Fire Island? You specifically said, I didn't think it was for me. What does that mean?
Oh, yeah, no, we could and probably should do a whole Fire Island episode to dive into this further. But, I had an image that it was only beautiful people and that I would feel insecure. And I probably told myself that I would feel judged, but I probably knew deep down inside that, like, mostly by myself, that I would just feel very insecure, very much like I didn't fit in, very much like I wasn't one of the beautiful people. And it just felt intimidating to me. And I also knew that there is this culture of groups of 8 typically coming out here together, booking a house together, many of them in shares that they book for the summer for a certain amount of weekends, so they know each other really well. And I just, I couldn't see myself breaking into a group like that. I was invited to these parties where you were supposed to like meet people to potentially do shares with other people who wanted to spend their summer in Fire Island, but didn't necessarily have 8 people. And so there were parties to meet other like-minded people. And it just, all of it sounded so intimidating to me at the time. But then Toby brought me out here, like I said, in a situation where it wasn't a share. It was just the 2 of us. It was May of the year that we met. We met in January. So, I was like head over heels blissfully in love. Not that I'm not anymore. I still am. But I was like, I would have done anything. And I thought, if anybody's going to show me Fire Island, I'm going to trust him to do that. And it kind of is all those things, and yet without the insecurity. Like everybody here, I found to be super friendly and welcoming. I find that on Fire Island, people in large parts, I feel like, check their ego at the dock, and so like they're just here and happy to be here, and happy that it's summer, happy to be amongst like-minded people. And it is all what you make it. Like you can go out and party hard, but you can also make it quiet and introspective and spend time by the pool or by the beach or just walking. It's just beautiful nature. And I just fell in love with it.
It is. It's gorgeous in a lot of ways. Like the nature is absolutely beautiful. And let's not get it twisted. There are very beautiful people here,
Yes.
beautiful by some of the limited standards which gay culture has set for itself, even in 2024. But there is a certain, I'm not going to call it camaraderie, but I do think everyone's here for a good time. Everyone's down to chat. Even if it's a no, it's relatively pleasant.
Yeah.
But I think what you really hit on is the judgment. The judgment is sort of created by us.
Right.
And what I always remind myself of is, for example, if I'm online and I'm not into somebody, I don't hate them.
Right.
I'm not mad at them. I don't wish them poorly. It's just not my thing
Right.
at that particular moment.
Right.
So I can roll with that if I'm getting a no from someone, or I can just remind myself, like, every pot has a lid,
Yeah.
and I'm just not this person's lid right now.
Right.
I have almost always, when I was in the mood, because I'm not necessarily like this particular trip, I'm pretty ambivalent about having sex while I'm here.
Right. I'm guessing it'll happen.
Probably. I have felt like I was able to connect in a meaningful way with
Right.
someone I was attracted to.
Yeah.
Not like, I guess, like this is my last resort.
Right.
But I understand, like, it can be, these kind of spaces can be really intimidating.
Absolutely.
And we have to remember, like, everyone here, there's probably something that they don't have that they identify in somebody else.
Right.
And it's just a surface judgment. Like, you may have the body, but not the money. You may have the money, but not the partner. You may have the partner, but not the open relationship.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone is kind of trying to fill a gap.
And the other thing that I learned over time and learned about myself, I think, is that, sometimes you feel like you might get, for lack of a better term, like a stink face from somebody. But I realized that, like, I was giving the stink face when I was feeling insecure. Like, it's like, it's my own reflection of how I'm feeling inside. It's not how I'm ever feeling or meaning to give off to somebody else. I never want somebody else to feel that I am, making them feel less than. Like I said, I think we could spend a whole episode talking Fire Island, but I am going to cut us off because our guest has arrived, and I'm so excited. This is our second guest ever on the podcast, and we are. I want to ask him how to pronounce his name properly because I don't want to get it wrong. But I believe I've always said it is Daniel Nardicio.
I have heard on other interviews Nardicio.
I heard that interview too, but I don't trust that particular host, so I want to ask Daniel. But
Nardigayo.
so we're going to find out in a second. But when we come back, Daniel will be with us.
See you soon.
We're here with Daniel Nardicio, event producer and king of Cherry Grove, Fire Island.
King of Cherry Grove.
No?
I think everyone thinks they're the king of Cherry Grove.
I think you are the rightful
mayor.
king.
Yeah.
We're so excited to have you.
Thank you.
I mean, you have been responsible for some of my best gay memories and moments that have changed my life. My husband and I went to, I think, what was the second or third Spartacus back in
I love Spartacus.
2013.
Yeah.
And that was what led us to opening up our marriage, or our then
Wow.
relationship, pre-marriage. We went to what I still consider the best party I've ever attended, which was Bed Bath House and Beyond.
Oh, wow.
At when it was at a house in the Pines.
Oh, yeah, 231. I think.
Yeah, and
It's one of the best, yeah.
years and years ago, and that was what led to the conversation that got us on prep.
Wow.
But I mean, like over the years, just we were at Alan and Liza. My favorite Daniel Nardicio memory, however, we were front row at Cheetah Rivera in the Ice Palace, and every time we gave her a standing ovation, she would grab our hands.
Yeah.
And then we had dinner at Top of the Bay right afterwards, and you had a table there. And we were sitting with our friend Patrick, and she walked in, and so we stood up at the table and applauded again. And she came right over to our table, and we got to tell her how wonderful the show was. So yeah, I mean, what you do spans obviously from these like incredible parties like Spartacus and Bed Bath House and Beyond, which are very sex positive, to these like bringing Liza Minnelli and Cheetah Rivera and Bernadette Peters and all these incredible talents to Cherry Grove. So anyway, all that to say that I'm very excited that you're here, and thank you for being here.
Well, I love the highbrow and the lowbrow together. Yeah, it's very fun for me. Not necessarily always together, but on the same weekend.
Yes.
I think it's great.
Well, and then I just saw you posted that when Lady Gaga was here back in 2008, I think, that it was a clothes check party.
It was an underwear party, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it was the underwear party.
It was the underwear party.
Okay.
Yeah. It was the first, one of the first times I ever had a performer, and I remember this guy came to the front door and was yelling at my dad, "When is she going to finish? You know, I didn't sign up for this." It was like he didn't know who she was, and of course now everyone's like, she spent the night at my house. I smoked pot with her. I did bumps with her. It's none of that happened. She literally went to bed right after the gig and got up next morning and was out at like 5 a.m. to go do the Today Show or something.
This is probably the same guy that's like, I saw Hamilton at the Public.
Exactly. Exactly.
Shut the fuck up.
When Madonna was there on her iPad. Yeah.
So you're only our second guest ever on the podcast.
Oh, wow. I'm honored.
Yeah.
Really. Thanks.
And we've decided as dads and daddies that we have a particular question we kind of want to frame our conversations with guests with. And, we say that we are a podcast about the lives and times of adult gay men in the here and now. So do you want to...
Yeah. The question is, Daniel, what's your daddy issue?
It's so tough. It's not really tough, but it was like, you guys gave me homework. So I was like, oh, Jesus, I have to actually think. It was interesting because when I was in my 20s, I was living in Berlin, and I read Andrew Holleran's book, The Dancer and the Dance. And I remember he said one line about Fire Island. I had never been. And he said, after 30, swimsuit season is permanently over on Fire Island. And I remember I was mortified. I think it was like 28 living in Berlin.
Yeah.
And I remember I was mortified thinking like the door was going to close, and... Then I left Berlin and moved to New York, and then I eventually made my way out here. And I remember being like, the door closes if you let it close. People tell me all the time, after 50 I was invisible. I feel like you're invisible if you let yourself be invisible. My issue sometimes is that I get in my head, and I'll all of a sudden be like, I'll buy into whatever. You know what I mean? That the narrative is that I'm 58 as of last week. And so, there's this narrative that like I should be well past my prime and that I should, be somewhat invisible. And I think that I don't really listen to it 90% of the time. But the issue sometimes is that 10% creeps in, because it's like one of those things. If I get into a fight on Facebook with some idiot who, whatever, complains about something that I'm doing or saying or being, they always end up coming back with, I'm old, I'm irrelevant. And it's tough because sometimes it fills in. Sometimes you're also like, wait, you're the same queen that says that gays are ageist for going after Madonna, or you're like the same queen that like, I don't know, just have all these, these issues that people sort of hate ageism until it suits them as a weapon, But I think for me, it's just not buying into it. I've learned to take my own space without taking others' space and not let myself be quiet. Not be quiet. I don't want to be like a loud guy in a room trying to get attention because we've all seen them, and that's kind of a sad thing as well. There are some people that I know in nightlife that just can't handle aging well. And it's like, hey, I'm cool dad, and I'm not really cool dad, And so I guess for me, my issue is like how to age gracefully, how to take up space that's mine without letting judgments or my own self-judgment go into my head.
Is the voice that you hear that 10% of the time, is it mean? Is it defeatist? Is it telling you to stop? Like, what's it sound like in your head?
Well, I'll tell you an example. The other night, I got invited to a naked pool party in the Pines, and I don't traditionally go to anything like that. I've never gone into any real sex parties here because of what I do for a living. It's like if, they see me, they're like, oh, yeah, he was rooting around like a Tuscan truffle hound on his hands and knees. Or oh, I saw her. She was high as a kite, fucking whatever. Right. They always have some, and it's always negative. It's never like I saw him and he was like really, hot, like whatever. Generally speaking, like people tend to like be like, I saw this known person and this known person was doing something that they feel they got one over on you by seeing you do.
Right.
Plus the fact that, I have a 10 guys working for me tonight. And if I see them, it puts us in an awkward situation. I don't want them to feel like they're watching me have sex. I don't want to see them necessarily. Well, some of them I do, but I would never want them to feel awkward. And particularly, I never felt like I wanted them to feel awkward, but I also particularly now with the litigiousness of our society or, social media for people to feel like they had to have sex or that they felt like they wanted to. I don't know. I keep myself out of that realm. But I went to this pool party that a friend of mine threw, a naked pool party. And I've gone a couple of times to things like that before, but not gotten naked. But I went to this and like everyone was naked. And I thought, well, girl, you're going to be like so like sore thumb. So I got naked. And then I talked to the host who was around my age and he was saying, oh, someone just, rebuffed me. And I'm like really going through it in my head. And I was like, and then that kind of got me going through to my head, because obviously I'm, 58, as I said, and 21-year-olds are 25-year-olds aren't necessarily going to be flocked. Some do, but aren't necessarily. They're all after themselves. And I have to remember when I was 25, I was sleeping with 25-year-olds,
Right.
30-year-olds, maybe never a 58-year-old. Now, admittedly, 58 now is different than 58 when I was younger. 60 is not the new 40, by the way. The only one that says that is 60-year-olds. 40-year-olds never say that. And it started getting like, oh, you don't belong here. You're not wanted. It's like, and just sort of feeling, very deflated. And then you get in your defensive mode where you're like, well, I'm Daniel, whatever in your head. Like I'm blah, 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 blah. I make the, whatever. But it doesn't matter in that environment what I do. It doesn't matter if I have $1 million in the bank. It doesn't matter. The currency that I'm playing with, the pool that I'm in, I have less currency than other people. It's just the reality, and you have to sort of deal with it. So I talked my friend off the ledge. I had some fun, and I left. And I said to myself, you put yourself in that environment, you have to gird your loins and be really prepared because it's a tough environment. A lot of the hottest guys in the United States are here on certain weekends.
Yeah.
And you can really go down a rabbit hole, which is why you don't see me really at the underwear party at the door as much as you used to. I used to be there up until maybe like 8 years ago. And then I realized, oh, this kind of runs itself. I pop in for a little bit, but like you stand there after a while and you start to, it can be tough, So you just have to, I just have to prepare myself when I get in a situation. Now that said, when I go to Zipolite or I go to other places where I don't know anyone, I act like a damn fool. You know what I mean? So. So anyway, that's sort of, those are the things that you get. You start buying into the hype.
Yeah, we talk a lot about, we've just recently did an episode about sex party etiquette. And one of the things we talked about is just like how to get yourself in the right mind frame. And Judson talks a lot about a zero-sum game. Like you didn't know this person before you walked in and you didn't know them 5 minutes later, so whether they said yes or no in a way doesn't matter. Like yes, right. You take a hit to the ego, but Judson and I have friends who throw a kind of monthly sex party out of their home in Brooklyn, and it's really lovely and curated and friendly. But there's times where I go and I just get totally in my head and can't enjoy myself. But then this last time, I just kind of went in and like decided to be confident. I just I don't know, like I made the choice and it really worked for me. I mean, and I'm 50 and I don't think the folks that I was playing with there were nearly that, but yeah, it felt really wonderful. And we talk all the time about like, and I mean, this is such a cliche, of course, but like confidence is sexy. And like, if you, if you can find that, then to my mind, that's the way to kind of gird yourself,
Right. And if you don't have it that night or whatever reason you ain't get it, go home.
Yes. Well, exactly. Zero-sum game. Yeah.
Yeah.
I left a party yesterday because I don't know if it was necessarily like a lack of confidence, but it was nice to just listen to my body. It was like a naked social that also had like a play component. And I had a really long week at work and my social battery was like very, very low. And I didn't take my decision to depart early as a rejection by other people. It was just my taking care of myself. Like, I don't think I have the energy to negotiate group sex at this moment. And it's not because, I'm too wounded to hear no. It's just like, I don't even want to get a yes because then I have to do shit.
So
It's good to know when to go home. It definitely is.
Yeah.
Especially as you get older, I sort of find that it's important for me to know when, like, FOMO is just, it's just, you got to let it go. You know what I mean? There's so many parties that I've been like, no, I'm not going to go. And then I sit there and kind of beat myself up over it, or a little beat myself up over it. And then I go to sleep and I wake up the next morning, I feel incredible. You know what I mean? I got a good night's sleep. I got up earlier than everyone else. Everyone at my house is crawling on hands and knees from like doing so many
Dying.
things. So many things.
but what's interesting to me is that like you also like provide this service for so many people. You host so many parties that evolve and either have a sex party component or evolve into a sex party. So what's that dichotomy like for you? I mean,
Well, I don't get involved usually.
Right.
It's like I said before, it's like, the problem I had years ago when the underwear party was really taking off and becoming a big thing at the Ice Palace was I started to feel like always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Right.
And I started to feel like everyone's hooking up, and at 4 a.m, I was paying people out and then going home and like, this was kind of pre, social media, or not social media, but Grindr and stuff. So you could still like at 4 a.m. But the Grove is, kind of slim pickings at 4 a.m. And, so I just learned, and then I used to soothe myself with like the money that I was making and just rub it on the wounds. I'd be like, well, I made all the money, but it doesn't really help because, you want affirmation in life. You want to feel sexy. But I just think now for me, it's been very much like I have to realize what's working, what's not.
right. But I guess what I'm curious about is like, do you feel that this is like, I feel that this is an important service you are providing the New York community. And I mean, like, so like when I first came to New York in the mid 90s, I feel like it was like Dean Johnson and
totally.
And Johnny
and Formica and Johnny, totally governed.
But then you like
came out of nowhere,
filled that void,
pissed them all off. Yeah, Mario Diaz was really big when I first started. Mario moved to LA.
Yeah.
But I was sort of like this young sort of upstart that had really no boundaries. I just sort of did whatever I wanted to do, and everyone kept asking me, like, people always ask me, how'd you get Liza? I asked her.
Right.
And I'm very persuasive,
Yeah.
and I treated her really well, and so then we did it in New York.
Yeah.
And then, then it led, Alan and I were friends, certainly that helped, but I don't look at it. I've never really looked at it as a service. I mean, I started like it was very much in Cherry Grove, like post AIDS. So it was a really touchy subject, me doing an underwear party. It was a really tough time for me because people here, old timers, were really upset that I was doing it. It was very permissive. Or even in the city, people were really upset. People wrote articles, people, wrote shit about me that was not very nice and have since apologized, many of them.
Right.
One in particular, a couple of years ago, came up to me at a party and was like, you don't know me. And I was like, you're so-and-so, you wrote for this. It was a really shitty thing you wrote. He's like, wow, you remember? I said, yeah, because it really hurt. You kind of, now under today's lens, people look and think, oh, wow, he's this this guy who was making shit happen. But back then it was like, he's irresponsible. They should be testing at his parties. He's an AIDS peddler. It was a really tough time for me. So I didn't look at it as I was doing any like Norma Ray union work. I was like really thinking of it more as just I wanted to have fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I wanted to have a really good time. And then back then I would dabble at the parties more and have a lot more fun and be a little filthier, pre-cameras, be all that. And I had, I didn't think it didn't seem like a career. So it just seemed like I was throwing parties and having fun.
Right.
Then when I started to realize it was sort of a career, I started to sort of correct and I started to treat it more seriously.
Yeah.
And then I realized then it was more of a service. As highfalutin as that sounds.
No, I mean, I think you're providing a service, whether you,
No, I do. It's hard sometimes to be like, pat this, the sound of me patting myself on my back. Yeah.
I mean, to bring joy back into this community that is separated out because of the sex we have, and then that sex became this scary thing that killed so much of our community, for it to now be able to be a celebration again and something we don't have to be ashamed of anymore. To have that outlet, and that outlet like so readily available is.
But the question, of course, is now, since everyone's doing it, because when I was doing it, I was kind of a pariah, even from the said promoters that we talked about,
Right.
I was sort of a pariah because they were upset that I was just doing it, not worrying about repercussions. And they were either afraid, except Dean, they
Right.
were afraid or they were getting busted. And I was somehow just like slippery and got away with things. And I was a pariah for a long time, which was really kind of difficult for me emotionally to take because I'm a people pleaser.
Yeah.
But now everyone's doing it. So it's like you have to think, okay, what's my next trick?
Right.
Because, like, honestly, I mean, sometimes I'm surprised Walgreens isn't throwing an underwear party on Friday nights,
I mean, I would prefer CVS because there's self-checkout.
Totally.
The number of times I've stood online like, I can't believe this company doesn't have computers doing this yet.
But, it's been copied now so much that, like, it's always a little embarrassing if I do one in the city because I feel like it looks to people that don't know the island or my history like I'm copying, like, I won't say the bars, but I'm copying these bars that are in Hell's Kitchen when in actuality it's like, girl, I mean, they copy word for word, like, the verbiage
Right,
that I put
right,
on
right.
it,
I've been to, I mean, about sex parties in general, and I'm not calling the underwear party a sex party, but sex positive parties, they can be very different on any given night. Like
Right.
one underwear party this Friday is going to be different than an underwear party next Friday. And I think what's really important for folks to remember, especially when the copy has been pulled from
Right.
someone else, is we talked about this earlier. It is what you make of it, right? But when you pull copy from somebody else, I think there's an expectation that it's just going to go a certain way.
Right.
And I've definitely been to parties lately in the city where the copy is pulled and then it's like, the sex isn't that good, the music isn't that good, and I am now very far from home.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's weird here because, like, when I was during COVID, I moved to Reflections in the Pines for a few years because I thought I want to see how the other half lives. My friend owned the house. I thought it'd be fun to take it over and just like have this really cool house to live in. And we started doing things like Bathhouse and
Yeah.
Beyond and different things. They're not a lot because I don't want to turn my house into a club. But I remember we announced Bathhouse and Beyond, and then PJ, who owns, and that's air quotes, the Pines downtown harbor area, does a bathhouse party with this woman singing Bette Midler and Guys in Towels. It was a crazy copy. And of course, it didn't work. Of course, it was embarrassing, and no one went. And I think they closed it at like an hour after they opened because no one showed up. But it upsets me because the lack of creativity in our community. Like everyone's just sort of looking at what people are doing and kind of copying it. And it upsets me because, we went from being a creative class in the 70s and then so many people died. And then we really just went directly into being consumer class, gay people. I don't consider the gay community to be, this is the pull quote that'll come out and bite me in the ass. I don't consider it to be especially the creative class it used to be. And I have to blame AIDS. I think, Fran Lebowitz says this really brilliantly. She said, not only did all these great artists die, but all these great art appreciators died. All these people that went to museums and went to the opera, all of those people died.
Right.
So what ended up happening is we went from being super creative to being music and tastemakers to when you really look at society now, we're not making music, the popular music anymore. You know what I mean? I don't think that many gays are sitting at the table, maybe Justin Trantner, but and Linda Perry, God love them. But, there aren't that many gays you see sitting at a table writing Beyonce songs. It's all formulaic. But they're also not necessarily all the fashions. And just, it's not the way it used to be. And I feel like we went from a creative class to a consumer class somewhat. So a lot of the people that are copying me just don't have it in them. You know what I mean?
hopeful.
They're just
I
not
think we're in a
creative.
hopeful moment in terms of like.
I know that sounded really dour. I sound like Trump right now.
No,
What
no.
the hell? It's stupid.
No, but I in this really particular moment, I've been between O'Mary and the success of
Oh,
O'Mary.
absolutely. The
and-
Ridiculous Theater Company, basically, that's like,
Yeah.
I feel like we're at this great moment.
Yeah,
right now.
exactly. And like the Jellicle Ball, the cat,
Yep, I agree.
This podcast.
this podcast. But even like, Chappell Roan and Troye Sivan and Lil Nas X, like, I mean,
I agree. Yeah.
I
I
feel
kind
like
of
we're in
agree
a
with
really
you.
kind of
Yeah.
exciting, like,
Right. It's a little bit of a renaissance.
Yeah,
think,
I hope so. It
No,
feels
you're
like
right.
it.
Actually, now that you mentioned it, I guess what I'm meaning is like kind of leading through my career.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
look back a lot of it and I was like, God, there was like really no one that was really pushing me to be better because everyone was just copying.
Right.
And I mean everyone.
Right.
It was kind of astonishing to me opening a bar in Hell's Kitchen that, and I love these girls, but it was like Bootsy LaFerris with David Serrano on Tuesdays at Industry. Wednesday, it's Bootsy LaFerris with Steve Cenobite on at whatever Verse. And Thursday night, it's this. It was just like you could basically
Right.
move them around, and they're all great. I love them all. Don't get me wrong, but I was kind of like, what is this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where's like someone really? And it's Brooklyn. It really is. It seems Brooklyn.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like a lot of that. I lived in Williamsburg. I moved. I lived there for a decade or more in Williamsburg, and then after I left, it kind of really exploded. With the further out, it really exploded.
We're far out in Brooklyn.
You guys are like you're like in. I can't remember where, but I looked it up when I couldn't
Ditmas
make
Park.
it. Ditmas Park. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that we are in dynamic, influential,
We're getting there. We're
taste-making
getting
part
there.
of
Our blocks are
Brooklyn.
getting more and more queer by the day.
But I would agree with that actually. I love what you're saying, and I think there's another piece of it too that I think about all the time as things become more and more and more expensive. It's really hard anymore to be creative for creativity's sake while you try to support yourself in a city as expensive as New York. So like most of I have this conversation with friends who are artists, actors, models all the time. It's like there is no shame in doing corporate work if it all leaves you some time to do the thing that brings you joy. But in capitalism's villain era, where we're at our fucking jobs 60 hours a week, it's really hard to have the energy to crank out something beautiful.
I agree.
It's so tough.
That's why it took me until I turned 50 to figure this all out.
Yeah, it's weird because when I started, I felt like there were a lot of people just doing stuff to do it. It wasn't about like my fee is this, my minimum is this. You know, it was. I'm not saying it is now. I'm just saying that I remember. You know, Sweetie was one of my best friends. This drag queen Sweetie, and she made an okay living at drag, not a great living, but she made it. But she kind of had to do it. She was wanted to be an actor, and that was a way for her to act, and she was fucking funny.
She was.
And and then now it's like it's a career path for people, and it's like I feel like Plasma or different drag queens on Drag Race, you can kind of see, okay, musical theater queen, this is a path they took, which is like they learned drag, they're very good at drag, they're they this is a path for them to get where they want to go. Rose, that I think it's not like they're just doing it to do it. I think it really is a path for them, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, drag is a career now. I mean,
Drag Race has changed the game, and
I mean, last night I had dinner with Alaska, and it's kind of amazing. Her life is just amazing. I think Sweetie would fall. Well, I would say die, but she's already dead. She would just fall over if she knew that at the career right now some of these queens have.
I'm always amazed at how many drag queens feel like they have to get sober so they can even compete. Right? It's like I have to have on a straight head just so I can be part of this world. And as a sober person, I understand that deeply. Like if you're in a very highly competitive industry, which drag has become, it makes sense that you might say, okay, like I'm going to have to put this down if I need to spend tomorrow afternoon sewing.
Well, because a lot of them are they're their own accountants. A lot of times they're their own, not managers necessarily, but they're the ones dealing. I deal with a lot of these queens, and you're kind of dealing with. They don't have like a whole staff of people. They're making money, but it ain't money. I mean,
Right.
It's like when Al and I were business partners. That's money. You know what I mean? What Alan would make for like a TV show or an appearance, that's like money. But like. What Jimbo and Alaska are making, that's cute. If you add it up over a year, it's a really cute living, but that's not enough to like afford all of the things you need. So you either have your wits about you or you are a mess at the club and then you forget to get paid or you start dropping the ball, you don't pay your taxes, and I feel like the girls that I work with, which are the good ones, they really have their wits about them. Dina Martina, I work with Dina. Dina's one of my best friends, and she's got fucking work ethic, bank account, collects art. She's got it figured out.
It took me until last summer here at the Ice Palace to finally, and I'm a drag obsessive. We had Raven from Drag Race like MC our wedding, but for whatever reason, it took me until last summer to finally see Dina Martina at the Ice Palace, and wow, genius! I just like.
She's a whole new level. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, you know how Chappell Roan said, you know, I'm your pop star's favorite pop star, or Sasha Colby said it.
Yeah.
Dina is kind of like your drag queen's favorite drag queen.
Right.
Alaska said it last night, as a matter of fact. It's
Did
my
she?
favorite
Yeah.
drag queen. She's like loves. She went as Dina Martina for Halloween. No one knew what it was. And
That's
and
amazing.
her friend went as Doreen, a really obscure Dina character, like Dina's best friend Doreen, who is just like a puppet. Like, hello, Dina. She talks like that. Dina, let's get this clams. Like, she has this really crazy voice. But anyway, Dina is like one of those people that I just think is incredible and has managed to make a career and not be on Drag Race. She couldn't be on Drag Race.
No.
She just never would do it. They always say we'd love to do a Legends one with Varla, Jackie, you know, Coco, Peru. Girl, those queens wouldn't even get out of bed.
Varla's up there for me too.
Varla's great.
I was very lucky to see Varla for the very first time in P-Town this year, and whether it was shtick or whether it was true, the tour is called the Errors Tour.
Genius. She's doing it with us
So
at Red Eye in
funny.
the fall. She's
Oh,
doing
really?
it
Oh, great.
2 nights with us. Yeah, it's
I will
incredible.
be back to see it again.
So good.
It's a Taylor Swift parody, and at the end of the show, she's like, "This is a cease and desist letter from Taylor Swift's legal team," which I love that because it's kind of unfalsifiable, which is what really good storytelling is.
Right.
Like, is this true or is this great shtick? Who knows?
Right, exactly.
I will absolutely be at that show. Thank you for the heads up.
Yeah, she's pretty great. We love her. I love all the queens. I mean, the older
Oh, yeah.
ones. I love them. You know, Sherry and I are dear friends.
Yeah.
Jack, you watch Drag Race?
You know, I actually have lost touch with it for years. I think I probably dropped out after season 8. I tried to do Mexico, didn't love it, and I'm just kind of ambivalent at this point.
Okay.
Yes, I joke. Do you know the app Time Hop, where it's like it syncs with all your like your social media, your photos, and it shows you like this is what you did this day,
That's cute.
you know, today,
Yeah.
however many years ago. And so there's one tweet. I tweeted a logo years ago saying, how come every other reality show gets 2 seasons of their shows a year and Drag Race just gets 1? Can't we get more Drag Race?
And now it's like you get your...
And now it's like, I mean,
Yeah,
be
it's
careful
too
what you
much.
wish for.
Totally,
Like, it's
yeah,
just so oversaturated that even I, who once considered Drag Race a religion, have finally had to like take a little bit of a step back.
Yeah, I never get tired of it. It's
Really?
weird. I could watch it. Like, when I'm like having a night in, I sometimes just put it on in the background and watch Alyssa Edwards.
Yeah, I will still watch the main season.
But I get what you're saying.
But, like,
all the offshoots are
it's a
hard.
lot.
Like right now they're doing global, and that one's going to be really hard because
I
it's like
can't.
Queens you don't really have a lot of investment in.
Yeah.
It's tough, but you know they're making it work for them, and they're giving. I mean, they've made so many queens rich.
Yeah, no, and that's the amazing thing is like, drag was not the career. I mean, there were the people you're mentioning like really had to work hard to create a career for
Bianca
themselves.
Del Rio. I mean, Bianca Del Rio is like
Yeah.
insane. Trixie.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking like. They're rich.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I've been to Bianca's house in Palm Springs, and she's like, you know, it's like Beverly Hills and Palm Springs, and she's like,
but I love that
she's
because
a good
like
queen. She's really good. They're both good queens. but-
Bianca, I would see out here at the Blue Whale, just like hosting her little show, you know, like
Sunday morning brunch
yeah,
shows.
I mean, yeah. So you know, Bianca Bob, who I saw out here at Cherries, you know, back in the day, like I do love what it's done for that. No, I love what it's done for the community and for that
It's
built
going to
a
change.
career.
It's changed it for sure. And some
Oh,
people
yeah.
are like, I like drag the way it used to be. It's like, girl, yeah, you do. But if you were trying to like make a living from it, you know what I mean? It's like when I took Dina, Dina was at Lori Beachman and I saw her, or back in the day, it was a cutting room. And I went to see her and I wanted to work with her so bad, but I don't try not to poach, you know, like one of those things about being original. I'm not really going to go. But I saw her and thought, you're just doing 8 shows at the Lori Beachman or
Right.
cutting room. You should be doing one big show. It's like really, you're getting older. It's like, so I went to her and I said, look, I really want to work with you. You know, you're going to like, but let's go big. You know what I mean? And what was interesting about it was we announced BB King's, which was 500 seats, and the groundswell of like people being excited and supporting her, moving to the next show. But there were all those people. I miss her when I could see her at this bar for $50. Yeah, you miss it,
Right.
but she got $50. Now that the cover wasn't 50, but they were like, I miss it when the intimacy. I was like, yeah, you miss it, but like she's getting older. She's not gonna want to do that.
Yeah.
For 50 people. So
Yeah. What I don't love about Drag Race now is just like all these really young queens who learned what drag is by watching Drag Race, by watching Instagram, and not having that history.
Totally. Like the episode where they talk about disco and none of them really knew about Disco Sucks and the whole like movement. I was a little bit astonished. I was kind of really freaked. Like that was wild.
Yeah,
too,
it was
that they didn't know the
it
history
hurt my
of
heart.
disco.
Yeah.
But then again, I mean, like, it's hard with the kids that work for me. I'll sometimes bring up something and they don't know Judy Garland or whatever. They don't really know, and I'm like, well, it's not my job to teach you.
There's also, I mean, there's just so many more gay references anymore too. Gay pop culture references. Like I'm not saying that it was static, but for a very long time you had like a very small number of very powerful icons, and now it's like depending on which circle of friends you roll with, like your icon could be completely unknown to someone else, even if they have like 3 million Instagram followers.
Well, what I found really interesting was a friend of mine's this 90-year-old drag queen, and we were talking about drag and how different it is now, because back then it was female impersonation, really.
Yes.
And I didn't really think about this until she said it. When you were a 20-year-old gay guy, 70 years ago, 60 years ago, you would go see a female impersonator because that was the closest you were ever going to get to Judy Garland. You may not be able to see Judy Garland live. You couldn't go on YouTube and watch her perform.
Right.
You couldn't see these people. So you could go, and straight people were going to like see someone impersonate really well Judy Garland. But then, of course, now with YouTube, I don't really need to see someone do Judy Garland because like I can go to YouTube and see the original Judy in many different performances. You know what I mean? So it changed where now you've got the Jimbos. They're really, or Alaska, they're really, they're creative. I think they're just creative entities.
Yes.
They created these characters. I mean, Alaska, the way she speaks, I just could listen to her all day.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Speaking of gay icons, I believe I know from seeing your posts over the years that you have opinions about Madonna. I personally, Madonna's my queen. But it's
her birthday today, by the way. So I'll go easy.
What's that?
It's her birthday today. So
it is her birthday today. Yes, we're recording this on August 16th.
Yeah,
she turned
totally.
66
so I know that.
today.
Yeah, I got it.
No, but when you were talking about these queens on Drag Race not knowing disco, like it does hurt my heart when I meet young gay people who don't understand what Madonna was for us and where,
Oh, she was so incredibly influential.
Yes, and like
I say that she was my password on my first ever ATM. Was Madonna. I was a huge fan.
Yes.
I only joke around now because
I know.
she's become this weird caricature of herself, and like
I know. It's hard for
and
us.
also, now that I've worked in the business, I've worked with so many people that have horror stories from Jonathan Groff, John Cameron Mitchell, of what a beast she's been to people. Cher, same thing. Tell
Wait,
stories.
Cher has stories, or people say
Cher-
the same thing about Cher?
Cher has stories. Google Cher on Madonna. And she'll
Oh
talk
yes,
about
yes. No, I just didn't know if you were saying people were saying Cher is a beast too, because you're really hurting me if you're saying that.
Incredible megalomaniac, an incredible narcissist, and so I've heard some really funny stories about her. But that doesn't mean she wasn't influential. But I also think at some point, you sort of become a caricature of yourself. And I think that she has that. So that's why I kind of joke around about it.
No, I get it.
What I love is that people get so upset, and I say, just an FYI, she's not following me on social media. She does not know what I'm saying. But they get really upset. You're ageist. And this is my... Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm saying one more thing.
No.
This is the other thing I hate, is when you say something negative about Madonna, everyone goes, oh, you're just ageist. And I said, it's interesting because gay men, or they'll say gay men are ageist. I say, it's interesting because we love Dolly, we love Jane, we love Liza, we love Bet, we love Cher, we love Jane Fonda. We love worship these older women.
Yeah.
Worship them.
Yeah.
We make fun of Madonna because Madonna's kind of a joke, and suddenly we're all ageist and we just don't like old women. I live for Dolly Parton. And and Madonna and Dolly Parton have had the same amount of crazy, fucked up plastic surgery. But Dolly does it with a sense of humor. And I just love that. And Madonna doesn't, so she deserves to get the piss taken out of her a little bit.
No, totally. I have problems with like the younger gays who just like are so dismissive of her and don't understand like they wouldn't have any of the pop music that they live for.
I love the stories that I hear from people that Madonna was really great during the AIDS crisis.
Yes.
Cher was as well. I mean, there's
Yes.
a really great story that Harvey Levin tells about Cher, where his partner was dying of AIDS, and Cher came over, and he was her manager or whatever, and Cher came over and went in, and the guy was dementia, AIDS-related dementia at this point, and she just sat there talking. I'm getting goosebumps and a little emotional when I hear this. She just sat there talking to him, and he said she didn't just come in and was like, hi. She sat there for like a half an hour just talking to this guy with dementia, and then she came out, never released it to the press, never had cameras there, and and Madonna's done stuff like that, and that I really respect.
Yeah. I know. I just have a hard time giving up Madonna.
You don't have to give her up.
No, I know.
She's gonna stick around. I have a feeling she'll be around for a while.
I know.
And you know what? Someone who's 23 right now and chaperone obsessed, which they should be because she's amazing.
Yeah.
When that person is 63 and their grandchildren don't know who the fuck chaperone is, like that's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like that's just kind of how it goes.
There'll be so many people, the way things are going, there's just so much out there now. It's going to be hard for people I love Chaperone, by the way.
Yes.
I mean, she's just so great because she's like harkens back to a time and a sound that I really like, but also, she's a baller.
Yeah, my husband's been into Chaperone for a long. You have too, for a long time, and has been trying to get the rest of us into her, and the rest of us being me and our 8-year-old and our 5-year-old, and we're all on board now. And my kids will just like belt out like about being eaten out in the back of a car. They have no idea what they're saying.
I got to be honest. I'd heard the name, because the thing is with the clubs and stuff, you hear this stuff, but you don't really pay attention to it, so it becomes like in the background noise. And then finally, I was like, I got to listen.
Yeah.
So I go and listen to it because it's like part of my job. I should know who these people are. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I love her.
Yeah.
And I'm at a point in a career where it's not impossible for me to get certain people.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain people I can't get. But, I was kind of like called my assistant Tanner, and I was like, what do you think about getting Chaperone? But I was like, nah, she's too big. Jessie Ware, we have coming next summer on the island, which I'm excited about.
Oh, amazing.
Jessie Ware's incredible.
Yeah.
But Chapel's probably too big at this point, unless she decides to like
Dolly?
No, she said no. I tried them all. I mean, the ones I get.
Yes.
And there's someone asked me last night, Alaska, why don't you get Cher? I was like, I don't know. I guess I could do that and bring Jesus back. I guess. I don't know.
I mean, you've pulled off some miracles.
I mean, Jesus already
you've had-
came back once. Is he gonna?
I know, right?
Liza Minnelli, Carol Channing,
She's back.
Bernadette Peters, Patti LuPone. I mean, like you've pulled off
Yeah.
several miracles.
Yeah. It's been pretty great. I love those weekends when you get a Bernie or a Patty. It's like, it becomes like a holiday weekend here. It becomes like 4th of July.
Oh, yeah.
The excitement's palpable in the air. And when I get them and when they come on the boat, it's like it's just like a moment.
Oh,
like, it's
yeah.
like everyone's the buzzing about them. And,
I mean, I love Fire Island. But before you came in, we were doing our little intro segment. And I'm just talking about being out here on Fire Island and how before my husband introduced me to it, I always had some idea of it in my mind that it wasn't for me, which I hear from a lot of folks. But one of the things that I do love about it is it does all feel like it's held together by like Scotch tape and paper clips. So like it's like so
certainly the Belvedere has that feeling about it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like the Belvedere is like this place is it's amazing to me because it's very much. But yeah, I get your point. Yeah,
but so the fact that like seeing Liza Minnelli on the Ice Palace stage was like a miracle. It was like
absolutely.
That's not where she's supposed to be right now.
Exactly. Yeah. The fact that she's willing to do it is a testament to her. But there's like I've noticed the difference between like TV people and Broadway people. If I want Carol Burnett, it's like a private plane. It's like impossible, right? And the standards are so high because they got that TV money. But those Broadway people, they're hoofers.
Yeah,
they'll do it. I'm working on something right now. Patty and me are in The Roommate on Broadway, and so we're working on some promo ideas with them. Where they're going to be like bartending at Red Eye one night. We're not going to tell people when, and people are going to come in, and then we get the people's reactions.
Oh, that's amazing!
Bartending, just like promotional thing, and we'll do like email blasts for them.
Have you seen Patty's Oh Mary spot?
Oh, yeah, hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, that's got me thinking about it because they called me and said, "Will you do some emails?" I said, "Well, yeah, I'll do some emails because I love Patty, and but like I'm gonna get something out of it. Like I want to do something.
Yeah.
Have her come to the bar after she and Mia But because it'd be really fun for people to walk in and Patty LaPone's your bartender, that's what got me thinking of it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Cole's so creative. I actually was almost called him and said, "What do I do? How do I utilize them to promote the show?" I'm going to see it. But anyway, I agree with you about Fire Island, and it is wild. Sometimes I'm embarrassed when they arrive, like when Bernadette's here, and then there's like a pool show going on, and drag queens are gurning from all the coke and like trying to talk to her. I'm just like, oh my God, this place is a wreck.
But that's why we love it. That's why
It's a mess. But I just love. But then the magic when. And I tell this to all of them. I said this to Jennifer Holliday 2 weeks ago when she was here because she was a little bit like, really? I'm performing here? I was like, girl, don't get too high and mighty. So anyway, and she was amazing, by the way. But I said, it's not about wait till you walk out on stage.
Yeah.
Because the people are right there. And these people are like hardcore.
Yeah.
They saw you in Dreamgirls.
Yeah.
They were the ones screaming for you. They're the ones here tonight spending $100 or whatever. Because they love you that much.
Yeah.
You got to really be there. It's not just like Carnegie Hall. It's like a whole different vibe.
Oh, totally. This is so fun. I'm loving having you here, and I hope that like you'll do this with us again in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
I'm gonna cut us off for now because we always end our episode with something we call "Go Ask Your Dad," which we're gonna ask you to stay here and join us for, where we answer. Typically, we answer a listener question, but we're gonna do it a little bit differently today. So we're gonna take a quick break. And we'll come right back with Go Ask Your Dad.
See you shortly for Go Ask Your Dad. Hey, welcome back. Time for Go Ask Your Dad. A little note. We are not mental health care practitioners. We are not financial advisors. We are just... What's the collective amount of gay years we have? 200 in this room. We want to be of service in sharing our experience. So we recently ran an episode about sex party etiquette, and we asked a poll that many of you participated in, deep appreciation for that, listeners, asking, have you been to a sex party? And the greatest number of people who responded said, no, but I would like to. Daniel, given what you do, for someone that has never been to a sex party, the Go Ask Your Dad question is, what's your advice? Where should I go? How should I prep? What should I expect?
Where should you go? It's hard for me to say. I'm a promoter, so I promote. I would say, and this isn't even my own place, I'd go to the Eagle on a Wednesday. That's a fun one. If you want to throw yourself in it, we do a party called Devil Wears Nada, which is like basically all naked. That's always a great one because then you kind of are just like, you don't have the option. Like you're just like, you're in it. You can't stand there in the corner, so that's one fun thing. But the Eagle seems to be right now the sort of forebearer of that thing on a Wednesday night. And it's kind of choose your own adventure. You can be anything. It can be anything. It can be sex party, dance party. I think that's really fun. It's kind of like the underwear party here. So I would say that. Throwing yourself in a full-on sex party, though, can really be traumatic if you've never done it before. And clean out.
Yes.
Don't take that risk. It's not that hard. I'm a top and I clean out.
You're like, I fuck better without all the extra weight.
Because you never know.
You never
someone's
know.
going to come up behind you and want to fuck you. And you're like, you know what? This is the moment.
Been there.
Yeah,
Been there.
I almost was like a month or so ago. I went home with this really cute. These actually two guys from the underwear party, and they and that opportunity came up, and I wasn't prepared because it all happened so fast.
Yeah,
and I thought, oh, that would have been so great.
Yeah,
like, to be in the middle of that white in the Oreo.
I mean, I had the opposite experience. I was at a sex party and I was topping, and this guy came up behind me and started to kind of like push in. And I turned around and I was just like, damn, hot. And I said to him, hey, you're super hot. I'm not ready. And his response was, I'll be quick. And I was like, okay. So
you did your part.
Yeah, you warned him.
I let him know.
Yeah.
He did not seem to mind one bit.
That's great. That's great. But I'm always like, if I'm gonna get in that situation, I would always prepare, just no matter what, because it's like I want to just feel. First of all, like I said, I don't do that often, so it's like if I'm going to, just be prepared for anything.
Yeah.
I think the advice that we also offer people, because this is sometimes I want to go to socialize. Sometimes I go out because I don't want work to be getting in the way of the rest of my life. And I feel very resentful if social time comes up and I'm too tired. So I'll go with the mentality that even if I don't hook up, there's some really hot scenes. So if it's your first sex party and you're not totally sure like how to navigate it, I think it's really nice to go and just kind of watch, not from the wall necessarily, but there's going to be like really hot people having really hot sex around you.
Yeah, that's true. It's just you have to be careful not to be the lurker. The lurkers are always the tricky ones, you know.
Great point.
Yeah, I at that naked party that I went to that I mentioned earlier, I went and I decided I didn't get in my head at this one point. I got into someone else, and
Get out of your head and
really
into somebody else.
Sexy moment because it was pouring rain. So I took him out and we went on like this furniture and I was having sex. And then I looked back and I won't say her name, but it was a drag queen friend of mine who I've never seen naked before, but she was just wearing like panties and she's really a big girl. And I looked back and she just looked like a baby Huey. Like a giant baby, and she was like masturbating, watching it. I was like, "Oh Jesus, lurking." It was a moment.
So maybe the caveat there is if you go to watch, make sure you rotate a little bit.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
don't
Just stand there
don't
creepy.
stay on a particular scene for too long. Just circulate a little bit.
exactly.
Do a little Fruit Loop, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And be conscious of, this is what I was saying earlier about like confidence. Like I realized about myself that when I'm not feeling confident, it's when I'm giving off like a kind of stink face. And like, so, be aware of the energy that you're giving off, because I don't even think you're necessarily considered a lurker if you are giving off a good energy.
Well, yeah, but there's also I never understood people that go and have public sex and they get upset because people are watching them. But there is, weirdly enough, I feel like there's also a consent to some degree where if you can tell that someone's like not wanting you to just like peer into their souls, that maybe you just stop.
Yes.
I have a straight friend who works out here on the island. He's like really smoking hot, and he brings his girl onto our party and fucks her. And he said, I don't mind guys watching, but all of a sudden they like surround me and they're all like jacking off. And he's like, I can't. And it's like a tough call because it's like, well, honey, you're on our turf.
Yes.
But at the same token, I'm like, that would kind of bother me too.
Right.
So there's like a way to watch respectfully, and that's what I would recommend is to, watch respectfully, or maybe just occasionally look other places.
Yes. Rotate, yes.
Now I'm feeling like the lurker because we've discussed on previous pods. That's my number one fantasy. At this adult age of 41, I have had all iterations of gay sex, and I just want to watch a hot straight guy fuck a hot straight girl.
Same here.
And just be there to watch. I don't, I've even extended my interest in that. Like if she wants to invite me in, like I'm kind of up for it. But ultimately it's like, let me just suck your boyfriend hard and then watch him fuck you.
I'm sure you can find that double list. Just go on double list and put that down.
Double list?
It's the new Craigslist, yeah.
Double list.
Double list.
DOUBLE.
Mm-hmm. Double
Thank
list.
you so much.
Just put that's exactly what I want. Just put that's exactly what I want, and then some people start responding.
Sick. This is peak intel. Thank you so much.
Totally double. It's not as good as Craigslist. Craigslist was a moment.
So bomb.
It was such a moment. And I actually still hook up with this now 20 or 30-year-old that I hooked up 10 years ago on Craigslist, who's still straight identified, literally lives in Staten Island, like a college jock who wanted to try it out, and then now still to this day is like, you're the only guy I have sex with, but I want to have sex with you like every couple of weeks. My friends have never seen him before, but then like there was a situation where he came over and everyone saw him. He was trying to like see if he could hang with the gays, and they were all like, what the fuck is this? And he's so hot. And we met on Craigslist, and because I literally just put down what I want and go out and then come home and all the responses would be there. Otherwise, you're sitting there like Grindr. It's like, I feel like a rat on a wheel, with like Grindr, or whatever the noise is.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good impression of it, to be honest.
And then your dopamine just kicks in and when that happens, and it's like intense. But this was like, you just get a ton of email. You send out what you want, like photo-wise. It's the kind of moment. You say exactly what you want. And that was the great thing about it.
Directness is a kindness. And, for Gen Z who thinks we've like aged out of relevance, you'll never know sex on Craigslist. I'm sorry.
It was a moment. Well,
I'm
it's like
sorry.
cruising. You'll never know cruising.
You'll never know cruising.
Oh, I
Cruising
know.
was a great moment.
I know you talked about this you were on the Lost Spaces podcast recently, and the host just kept like clutching their pearls at so many of the things you were saying, and I was totally on your side in terms of like, where's cruising in real life? Like I was so
Europe.
What's that?
Europe.
Europe.
They still do it, yeah. In Italy, they do it because they're so closeted
But, like,
there. But yeah,
Back in the day, like in my late 20s, I would go out, I would meet people without the apps. I would, and like,
totally.
and yeah.
I mean, it was a really fun time, but also too, I mean, well, it's a lot like when I took over the Ice Palace and it became our thing. I was at a party where they were announcing it, and this woman came up to me and she goes, I really, I hope you bring back, I used to go to the Ice Palace, there would be 1,000 people on a Tuesday. It was just so much better back then. I said, honey, you were so much better.
Yeah.
It's never, I could literally bring Cher, and 1,000 people on a Tuesday at the Ice Palace may not happen.
Right.
Because it's just a different time. But I was better back then.
Yeah.
I was like, I was younger. There a lot more people were cruising. I'm not saying I'm not getting attention now, but it's just, I don't ever look back and think times were better. I actually really don't think that times were better.
Right.
There's that Louis C.K. thing where he does that, everything's great and everyone's unhappy, and he talks about how you're on the plane and you get they said they announced Wi-Fi for the first time ever on the plane, and this guy next to him they can't connect. Fuck it, and slips. Like he's already upset because he's already entitled and he just got it.
Yes.
But I feel like we're really in a great time. We are. I mean, Johnny Dynell. Oh, sorry, I know I'm probably rambling and we're over, but I'll just say one last thing. Johnny Dynell, who's like DJing tonight. You guys are coming, obviously.
Yes.
As my guest, right?
We'll
Johnny's
be there.
like an incredible guy. Just, I would say a mentor to some degree. And Johnny, there's a big picture we put these like vinyls on the windows of the club of the 70s. There's one of all these guys dancing shirtless. And Johnny said something so prolific to me. He goes, there are people who are going to walk by that and be like, oh, that was such a good time. And he goes, and then you look on a Friday, it's exactly that. He goes, I was there.
Yeah.
There ain't nothing different than a Friday. It may not be every night of the week, but there's nothing different on a Friday night. They're still doing poppers. They're still doing E. They're dancing with their shirts off. And it really made me realize, yeah, that's true.
I think it's a great time to be a gay guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I'm having
largely
a hell of
for
a
me,
time.
because of Daniel Nardicio.
Oh, you're sweet.
No, it's true.
Thank you for your service.
How should our listeners find you?
Tell him not to. No, I'm kidding.
Leave Daniel alone.
Well, how should our listeners sign up for your newsletter? Because your newsletter's great.
Just email me, danielnardicio@gmail.com, and I'll just put you on the list. I don't even I don't even have a website anymore. Like I've kind of become, COVID broke me, not the actual disease.
No, yes.
But the experience of COVID broke me. Before that, I literally never went. I never stayed home. And then during COVID, I had, the dog and everything. And I was like, oh my God, I really like myself. I'm like, and I've gotten to the point now where I was like, let my website go away and let, I have social media, of course.
Yes.
Instagram, Facebook and whatever. But I just sort of don't really dabble that much in it. And I'm really looking forward to in 2 years. Everyone knows I'm done. Like I'm not like retiring per se, but I've told everyone in 2 years I'm out. I'll relinquish a lot of my stake in the businesses, and I don't know, do something else.
Oh, interesting.
And I've kind of got some ideas.
Cannot wait to see what you crank out.
Part of it's Mexico.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Zipolite.
Go to Zipolite.
Yeah, I'm opening the inn. It'll be open hopefully a year from now.
Amazing. We'll have you back on to talk about that.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Actually, we're going to be recording live from Zipolite.
Yeah, we'll just come and record
Let's
there.
just do that. It's much easier.
I've been, though.
Well, for
the
me.
internet's not great. But that is not why you go to Zipolite. If you're in Zipolite and worried about your fucking internet, get over yourself.
Exactly. What we're building is basically like a version of the Belvedere, but not at all stylistically like the Belvedere. It's the clothing optional 22-room guest house with some condos on it, and it's
Hot.
a big sort of brutalist, beautiful structure.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
I'll make my reservation now. Daniel, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being
My God,
here.
it was so fun. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it was
This
so
has
fun.
been amazing, and you have been so gracious in all of our interactions, and we're so excited tonight to be at the Underwear Party as sponsors.
Well, you guys were so nice. The way you asked was very lovely. So I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. Brian's email etiquette is phenomenal. He doesn't even need Grammarly.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening, and we will be back with you in a week.
See you soon.